Okay, guys. So in the previous class, okay, we have discussed about the data modeling, and the in the data modeling, what we have seen what is the fact table and what is the dimension table, and then we go on discussing what is the cardinality in Power BI. It's called relationship, right? And in that, we have also discussed the cross filter directions, right? Like one to many and many to one, like both the directions. Like here the cross filter direction is only single. If you click it here, if I double click it here, see the cross filter direction is single only, but we'll have both also. So there is two type of cross filter direction, that is single and both. Also, we have seen, how to create a relationship between two tables, right? One way of creating a relationship, just you need to be in model view, and then make sure that you are under home tab, and under home tab you will get a ribbon called manage relationship. You need to click it here, and from here you will be able to create your relationship. Also, you will find all the relationship that is created here will appear here. So like we have a relationship between the deemed passport table and the deemed person table, and this relationship is active. Okay, as well as we have a relationship between the sales table and the cost table. What is the common column? The common column is client. Between, like, on this common column, the relationship between the sales table and cost table is there, and what is the status of the relationship? That is active. Okay, so how I can check that? You can check it from here, or either you need to double click on this relationship, and you will be having a new window opening for this relationship. Yeah, so this will be a edit relationship window. Here you will say the relationship between the sales table and the cost table, right? And here you can make the relationship either active or inactive. So if I uncheck the box, the relationship will be inactive. How I can check that relationship is inactive? It will be represented by dotted lines. So if I make this relationship inactive, it will be represented by dotted line. So see, there will be a dotted line. Okay, now we'll try to see what is the difference between active relationship and what is the difference between inactive relationship. Okay, so what I will do, quickly I will name this page, as difference between active relationship and inactive relationship. Okay, so we'll try to see that what is the difference between these two. So what I will do, uh, let me delete all the relationship that we have. So I will, to delete the relationship, again you need to be in model view, and then you need to be in home tab, and then click on manage relationship. You will get list of all the relationship. You just click it here, and all the relationship will be selected, and you will get an option to delete it. Okay, if you want to edit any relationship, you select any particular relationship and you get an option to edit. But since I want to delete all the relationship, what I will do, I will you know click on this box. All the box will be selected, and I will click delete, and it will delete it. Okay, so let me quickly select delete. So it will give you a warning, do you want to delete the visuals? Do you want to delete the relationship? Because if you delete the relationship, the visual, might be breakdown. So might be breakdown. What I'm trying to tell you, that suppose uh, in all these pages we have some visuals, like here I have some visuals, so right. If I delete the relationship, the value that populating into this visual will not be appear, the value will not be seen. Okay, so let me click it here. Let me delete all the relationship. So I delete all the relationship and click on delete. It will give me a warning that if you delete all the relationship, some of the visual will be going to break down. Okay, so I deleted all the relationship. Now my this report, that it this report will have no relationship now. Okay, let me close it and let me click on report view, right? And let me see, so see, if I'm trying to filter, this table I'm not able to filter. If you go back, uh, let me create some visual between two tables. So suppose if I have table visual, if I select client and sales, right? Let me format this visual. So I will not spend much time on formatting. What I will do, I will go here, copy the format and paste it here. Okay, so this is a table that I am getting. I have a client column and I'm doing some on sales column, sales. If I remove this client from here, and if I bring client from dim client, you know if I click it from dim client, there is a relationship between the dim client and sales table. Let me check, do we have any relationship? Let me check. So if you need to check and if you don't want to scroll, what you can do, you can go here and you can bring dim client table, and you can bring sales table. If there is already relationship, they will be going to related with each other. But since they are not related, means there is no relationship between these two tables. Let me go back to the report view and refresh things. So we got option to refresh. See, all the tables will going to refresh and the changes that I have made will going to reflect here. Because whenever you are making some changes and if that is not reflecting, you can click on refresh button. So when you click on refresh button, all the table will going to refresh. But if you click on individual table and then click on refresh, then individually one single table will going to refresh. See, so only dim client is refresh. But when you click it here, all the table will going to refresh, right? Yes, Priyank, you tell me. Yes, yes. So how to check it? Either you can check it here from the model, or if there is many table and many relationship, so either you can visit here and you can check it. So since there is no relationship, none of the relationship is appearing. Or what is the other way? You can create a new layout and simply you drag and drop, a dim client and sales. If there is already relation, by default it will be appearing. Yeah. No, we don't have any relationship. Then also we are able to see the data. But just check, is the data correct? Not correct. Yeah. So if there is no relationship, my visual has broke. Broke means either the value will be not be populating or the value will not be correct. The actual value you are not able to see. See, all the client A, B, and C, all they do not have 450 cells. The total is 450 cells. So if you go to sales table, if I go to my sales table, and this is my sales table, if you add up all this value, it will be 450. How to check that? So like you manually cannot do that. So what is the best way? You copy the entire table, right? You open the Excel, open a new workbook, like and paste it, right? And what you do, you select all these value and you will get some as 450 here. And this is how the unit testing or the validation that you will do while working on the projects, whether your data model is, yeah, there is two way of doing. Like one way, if your source is Excel, you will be doing in the Excel. If your source is SQL, you will be writing a SQL query to check. I I suppose I clear myself, right? So like this my visual has broke because there is no relationship between the dim client table and sales table. So what I will do, I will create a relationship between the dim client and sales table. I will create between the client column. So I need to select this column and make sure that my this relationship is active. By default the relationship is one to many because uh, this is the top table, this is the bottom table. So this first value 1 will be for the top table and many for the bottom table. What it indicates that the value inside this column, client column of dim client table are unique. That's why it's saying 1. Why here it is saying many? Because it's saying many because the value inside this client column of sales table are duplicates. Duplicates means at least one of the single value has appeared twice or more than once. So if you are able to see, this client A has appeared 2 times, and that's why it is showing many. Means for one value in the dim client table, there is more than one value or more client present in the client column of a sales table. And that's why this relationship is one to many. For one, the symbol is one, and then for many, the symbol is star, and for two, it is colon. So one colon star, it means one to many. This is how you write it. This is a symbol of representing the cardinality, that is one to many. For one to many cardinality, the cross filter direction is single by default. By default, it will be single. Cross filter direction will be single. See, we have option with single and both, but by default, it will be single. If you want to change to both, you can do that. I like I keep it as single. So what will happen? It means out of these two table, only one table will filter other table, and by default, if it is one to many cardinality, or even we call it a relationship in Power BI, either you call it cardinality or you call it relationship, both are seven. Both are same. If it is one to many cardinality, right, and by default the cross filter direction will be single, and it will be always from one to many side. Means this dimension table will going to filter the sales table. It will be always from uh, one to many side. So if I click on save, we'll see that. See, there is a relationship between the client table and sales table, and if you see the cross filter direction, it will be always from one to many side. So this is a symbol for one, this is a symbol for many, and you see the arrow, it's coming from dim client, that is coming from one going to many. It means dim client table will going to filter out the sales table, right? You have when you bring your cursor or hover your cursor on this continuous line for the relationship, and you double click it, you will get a edit window here. And you can either make this relationship inactive, or either you can make cross filter direction both, and click on save. So when you make this cross filter direction both, what will happen, even the dim client table will going to filter the sales table, and reverse will going to happen. It means sales table will also going to filter the client table, and that we have seen that discussions in the previous class. Let me make it single only, right? Now So we have these two table. I have dim client table and I have sales table. Now, since both the table have relationship, if you go back to the report view, you will be able to see the exact data. Now the data is correct. If you add 110 plus 150 plus 190, that goes to 450. And when for the client A, it is 110, for the B, it is 150, and for the C, 190. Now the data is correct. Now my visual is fixed. It is not broken. Again, we have this two table. How many relationships, this type of relationship, can be created between two table? Okay. So like, before this, let's discuss what is the difference between active relationship and what is inactive relationship. As of now, if you see this relationship are represented by continuous line, it means the relationship between the dim client table and the sales table is active relationship. It means by default, when you create any visual in the report view, dim client table will be filtering the sales table and the visual will not be broke. You will be seeing the correct data. So if I bring it here now, by default, this column, client column, is coming from dim client table. If you are able to see, it is coming from dim client table, and this sales column is coming from sales table. So the value is exactly correct. It means this dim client table is filtering the sales table and the value is exactly correct. Now let me make this relationship inactive by double clicking on this and uncheck this box. Okay, so since I uncheck this box, now this relationship between the sales table and dim client table is not active. It is inactive. Let me click on save and see the impact. You will see the relationship between these two tables are represented by dotted lines. Now, if you go back to the report view, see the value is broke now. I'm able to see 450, 450, 450 for all. Means by default, this dim client table is not filtering the sales table. The data is not correct. So this type of relationship is called inactive relationship. Means although we see that there is a relationship between the dim client table and sales table, but by default this relationship will not work. If you want to utilize this relationship, you need to use a special type of DAX function, and that DAX function is called user relationship functions. So there is other DAX functions that is called use relationship DAX functions. If I open that DAX function and if I just show you, so you will find, see, this is the use relationship functions. If you see, the specifies the relation to be used in a specific calculation as one that exists between column name 1 and column name 2. So means a column of table 1 and column of table 2. If there is a relationship that exists but that relationship is not active, that relationship is not active. Okay, means like when I should use it, like what I'm trying to say, this relationship by default will not work. But suppose if you are creating any measure or if you are creating any calculations and you want that that particular calculation should give me the value by considering the relationship between the dim table and the sales table based on client column, then you can specify that. How? Let me create one measure and let me show you that. So let me create new measure, and let me give this measure as total sales inactive relationship. IR is stand for inactive relationship. I will use calculate. Okay, dax functions, and inside that I will simple use sum of sales from sales table, right? So sum of sales I am doing on sales column. Now I will use user relationship. So in the filter condition of the calculate, I will be specifying to calculate sum of sales. We should, like Power BI or Power BI memory or processing capacity should use relationship between the dim table and sales table. So I need to specify that. So see, we'll got use relationship. This is a functions. So I need to use that, and now I will be going to tell that the relationship should be from dim client, right? So dim client, table ka client, comma, and you need to put sales table ka client. So I need to put sales table ka client. Okay, let me close it. And so like I close this user relationship dax functions, and then I need to close calculate also. Okay, so let me expand this one, so that you guys can see that. So what I'm doing, I'm using calculate. Inside that I'm doing this sum. To calculate this sum, what I am telling my Power BI, that whenever you will create these sums, you should use the relationship between the dim client table and the sales table. And the relationship between these two tables are inactive. We have seen that. And let me click on commit. So if you see the relationship between these two tables, if we see the relationship between the dim client table and the sales table, these are inactive, right? you know Let me bring a measure. Let me bring a measure and bring my total sales that I created, total sales IR. Okay, and let me choose my filter. So this is my filter, and I will bring client from dim client. Okay, let me do some formatting. So what I will do, I will increase this value to 20, COZUI. Yeah, and so this is the header. Let me go to the value. Yeah, border. Just one sec. Yeah, and here we can make this 50. Yeah, and let me make it bold. Yeah, so this slicers is coming from dim client table, and this sales, if you are able to see the sales, what I'm doing, give me this sum of sales from sales table. But to give this value, we need to use a relationship between the dim client and sales table. Okay, let me filter a. See, I'm getting 110. I'm getting the exact value for the client A. Here the value is not correct, but then also I am getting 110. If I remove this column 450 here, if I choose this visual, let me remove this column, but use this measure. I'm getting exactly value. If I removed, all the value will be correct. See. So let me let me create two visual. Let me remove this visual, or let me convert this visual to table. No, let me remove it better, and let me copy this visual, paste it. I have created another visual here. What I will do, I will bring sales from, not from measure, but from here. So if you are seeing this client column, See, this client column is coming from dim client table, and this sales value, if you are see, sum of sales is coming from sales. The relationship between the dim client and sales table are inactive, if you are able to see. The relationship between the dim client and sales table are inactive. So if you simply drag and drop few columns from dim client table and few columns from sales table, it will not work because the relationship between both the table are not active. It will not work means the value either it will not populate, it will give you a error, or if it populate, the value will not be correct. But here also, if you see, I have used this client column from dim client same table. But instead of using sales column from sales table, what I have created a simple measure using calculate. And what I am saying, give me sum of sales, the same thing what I am doing here. Give me sum of sales, see, sum of sales, same thing I want. But here I specify to the Power BI that while calculating this value, you need to use this relationship. We have a relationship, but since this is inactive relationship, by default it will not work. So I have to tell Power BI that while doing my this calculation, you need to use this relationship. So you, by using user relationship DAX functions, where you need to specify this is my dimension table, and what is the relationship. The relationship is based on client column, and this is my sales table, the relationship is based on client column. After putting a comma, you need to specify, and this is my user relationship DAX functions. So by calculating this, sum of sales, it will going to consider this relationship. And that's why if you see it, I'm exactly getting the correct value. Here the visual is not brought, but here it is. And this is the importance of user relationship DAX functions. And this is the difference between active relationship and inactive relationship. Right, the next question in the interview that they will going to ask, okay, they will going to ask, see, I make this relationship active, and if you will see the impact, both the visual will correct. Here also I am getting the correct value, means by default this relationship is working. Okay, now the next question is going to be asked in the interview, that you have two table, dim client table and sales table. How many relationship you will be able to create between two table? So I have this two table. Between these two table, how many relationship you will be able to create? So your answer should be the number of relationship between the two table is equal to the number of common column that two table have. Right? Let me repeat, or let me write it here. Let me write it. Number of relationship. Either you call it a relationship, some people call it cardinality. Both are same, no difference. So number of relationship are or a cardinality between two tables will be equal to uh, number of common columns between them. So this is very very important. Okay, so this will be answer. Now, out of these relationship, so suppose let I have five common columns between two tables. I have five common columns. So how many relationship total cardinality, or you call it relationship, will be five. How many are active? So out of five, only one is active. So out of five, only one is active. Remaining, that is 5 minus 1 equal to 4, is inactive. Okay. Out of this, 5 minus 4 will be inactive. Okay, it should be answers. Why there will be only one active relationship? Because when you have relationship and that is active, the filter direction will be defined by this active relationship. Okay, so at a one time, by default, Power BI will going to take only one decisions, right? And that's why there is only one active relationship between the two table, right? Other relationship are inactive. So to use that relationship, the question will be asked what is the importance of inactive relationship, and how you will be able to use inactive relationship. To use that inactive relationship, you need to use user relationship tax functions. So you need to use that. Okay. Now, how many types of cardinality are there? Okay, so there are different kind of cardinality. First is one to many. Again, you call it one to many when you consider department table and employee table. Okay, if you see the department ID here are unique, and I have information about all the department. So I have information about HR, IT, marketing, all. So this department dimension table contain information about all the department. Since it's contain all the information about all the department, either it is called dim table, or we call this table as master table. We call it dim table or master table. Right here, if you see employee informations, this employee ID 101, his name is Alash, is belong to department 1. Even if you see Charlie, he also belong from department 1. If you see Bob, belong to department number 2. But Eva also belong from department number 2. So here the department ID is repeating. One department ID has appeared twice. Department ID 2 has appeared twice. So here the department ID is duplicate. Okay. So the relationship between this department ID and this department ID will be one to many. It will be one to many. Let me show you how it is. Let me copy it and bring this table. Let me check department table is here. No, department table is not there. Let me go to transform data. Let me click on enter data. Since I manually want to paste the data, and it's always in the JSON format whenever you manually try to enter the data in Power Query. So, and I name this table as dim department. Dim department. For department, it's a DBT. I will also copy the data from the employee table, and let me click on enter data, and I will choose, and I will name this table as employee info. Click OK, and let me load these two tables. So now I will click on close and apply, and all the changes that happen in Power Query, it will load in Power BI desktop. So since these are loading, now let me go back to this model view, and I will open a new tab or a new layout. Here I will bring, uh, department table, and I will drag and drop employee info table. So I have these two tables, and see, by default Power BI has detected a relationship between these two tables, because when you click on manage relationship, you will get, this auto detect AI feature of a Power BI. It by default works, and it will be going to detect the relationship between the two tables. If you don't want that Power BI should detect whenever you load a new table, and I don't prefer that Power BI should detect the relationship between the new tables that I'm porting, because this type of relationship, will depend upon based on condition. So like we have seen right now, that I don't wanted active relationship between these two tables based on client column. I wanted inactive relationship. Okay, so it is based on the condition the client has put. Okay, so that's why I don't want that Power BI with its own intelligence. It should detect that relationship or a new relationship between the two table. I never want, and even I don't prefer, and you should not. So what you can do, because Power BI will going to detect, the name like department ID and department ID, and based on data type, if the name are same, it will going to detect. So I don't want it. So first of all, I will going to delete the relationship. So let me delete it, and this relationship has been deleted. Now I will go back to the file, and I will go to the options and setting, and I will go to the option. Since I want that the changes that I am doing, it should be global. Global means any report that I will open into my system should follow what I am deciding here. That is global. And there is option for current. What is the current? So these options are available for current, means it will only impact the current Power BI report on which I am working. But since I want that this, auto detect relationship should be disabled for all the Power BI reports. So what I will do, I will go under global, right, and click on data load, and let me check. See, detect column types and header for unstructured data sort according to each file setting. Okay, uh, so it will going to detect the, data type of column that normally Power BI detect in Power Query whenever you load the data. Also, allow data preview to download in the background. Okay. Let me click on, sorry, what you are saying. See, if you go to current file and click on data load, you see import a relationship from data source on the first load. So whenever you are loading for first time the data load, first time, whenever you are loading any new tables, it will going to detect a relationship. So this option is checked. I unchecked it, and see, auto detect new relationship after the data is loaded. So I will uncheck it. Okay, and now I will click on OK, and let me click on save. So whatever the changes that you are making, it should go into save. now now going forward, whenever you load a new table or data into this report, by default the relationship will not be detected. Now once I load this data, I will be going to create a new relationship between the dim department and employee info. I will go to manage relationship and I will click new relationship, and from here I will choose dim department, and from here I will choose employee info, the relationship between the department ID and department ID. See, the relationship is one to many that we have discussed. Yes, tell me your doubt. Or employee info, but other will not work. So what I'm trying to say, let me click on close. So we have a relationship between the dim department and employee info, right? And see, the cross filter direction is always from for one to many relationship, it's always from one side to many side, right? See the arrow, correct? So what I have told you, dim department table will able to filter the info table, but info table will not be able to filter the department table. To validate this, what I'm trying to say, just let's come back here and I will name this, page as cross filter direction. For direction, I am just simply writing dir. You should be able to understand. Now, what I will do, I will create a new table, and from this table, what I will do, I will bring some column from employee info table. So I have employee info table in which I will have department name, employee ID and name. So employee ID by default it is summing up the value. So if I removed here, see the value count of employee ID is coming. So let me uh, copy the formatting and come it here and paste the formatting. See, so by default here it is coming count. Why coming count? Because it's depend upon data type of this employee ID column. So if you check the data type of this employee ID column, if you check the data type, it is considering as a whole number. There is a symbol with the submission symbol. It means submission means the data type of this column is either a float or a decimal, or like float and decimal both are same, like if you call it as whole number or in number type. If I say in general it's number type. So for the number type data type, by default the summarization either it is count or either it is sum. Here it is taking as sum, sorry, count. So see, the summarization is count. So that's why whenever you drag and drop any column here, by default it will go for count. So if you choose sum here, by default it will go for sum. So it is summing up all these value. So you need to choose don't summarize. So I need to click on so don't summarize because I want to see that value. See the count here. I will choose don't summarize. I will choose C. So value is 101, 103, 102, 105, and 104. So here you need to choose don't summarize. If you choose sum, it will going to do the sum. See, yeah, I don't want to go with the sum because I want to see the value, not the aggregated value based on department ID, right? So I have employee info table and all these value are here. Let me rearrange it. How to do that? You can bring name at the top and employee ID above the name, right? And then we have a department ID. So this is how the value is there, and all this value is coming from employee info table. Now I will have slicer. This is called slicer. It act as a filter, and I will choose some like employee ID, or I choose a department ID from department table. So I have dim department table and I will have department name. So I have all these department name. Let me choose the formatting from here. without wasting time, and we'll use that. Yeah. Now I have these slices. We have relationship between the dim department and the employee info table. In the table I am getting all the data from employee info, and this department name in this slicer is coming from department table. So I have this table. In this table all the column or all the information is coming from employee info table. I have this slicers. In the slicers it is coming from department table. We have relationship between the department table and the employee info table, and the cross filter direction is from department to employee info. So what I'm saying, if the cross filter direction is from department to employee info, it means department table will able to filter the employee info. So if I choose here HR, I will have data for HR only. If I choose IT, I will have data for IT only. If I choose marketing, I have data for marketing only. Now let's make the reverse. So if you make the reverse, the filtering will not work. So like if you like what you will do, let me remove everything from here, and into this table I will bring department ID and department name. So I have department ID and department name. Into this slicer I will bring department ID from employee info table. So I bring department ID from employee info. So see, in the slicers I have department ID is coming from employee info. In the table I have department ID and department name from the department. Now let's try to filter. I'm choosing one but I have data for all. I'm choosing two but I have data for all. So filtering is not working. How filtering means employee info is not able to filter the dim department. So employee info will not be able to filter dim department because arrow is only from dim department to employee info. And this is the importance of cross filter. But if you make it, both, filtering will work both side. So now see the arrow, the filtering is working on the both side. If you come back to report view, yeah, if we choose two, we have data for two only. If we choose one, we have data for one. If we choose three, we have data for three. This is the importance for cross filter direction. Yeah, guys. So that's all related to relationship. Where I talked about uh, cardinality. I talk about cross filter direction with single and both the things. I talked about what is the difference between active relationship inactive relationship. I talked about what is the number of relationship any two tables can have, right? What is the importance of relationship, that also I talked about. Any question guys you have with respect to relationship, you can ask now.